Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a very long time, but today we're just going to have story time and just chill, you know, all the vibes. I was gonna do my makeup, like I get ready slash like talking, but I feel like I'm not really good with like multitasking because then I forget what I'm gonna say. I freaking lose track of what I'm talking about, and then I just never make sense when I do that. So, and not only that, but I've been home in the house since having the baby, so I'm kind of like losing brain cells, I feel like. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Today we're gonna have a story time on my labor and delivery. I'm gonna be telling you guys everything and like what I went through and just the experience itself. So let's get into it. Let's start with like the week. No, because what day did I go into labor? It was a Monday, I think. It was a Monday. No, I think it was a Wednesday. I don't know. Anyways, you know what? Let's just start with the day I went into labor. So that morning was a very rough morning for me. And literally I broke down crying. I had taken a shower, and mind you, every day before that I was literally like going on walks, I was drinking the teas, bouncing on my ball, like just doing anything and everything possible that I could to go into labor. And so the morning that I went into labor literally was a rough morning for me because I was so big. I'm 39 weeks. I'm so uncomfortable. Like, I'm just ready to get the baby out because sleeping was so hard for me. And I was literally 155 pounds towards the end of my pregnancy. So I was very, very big and uncomfortable. I was all baby, but like I just felt so heavy. My feet hurt, and it was just a lot. And I feel like a lot of people don't really understand that. Like towards the end of the pregnancy, like you're just super duper like over it. You're tired, and not only that, you're excited. And I had been nesting like so much, and so I just felt like mentally I was just so drained, and physically too, because I was carrying an 8-pound and 14-ounce baby. So I did not even think he was that big, but he was that big. And this was the biggest pregnancy I've ever had because the girls were only 6 pounds, and I did not get really big. That morning was rough for me, and I literally remember laying down and just crying, and I was like, and Jordan's like, what the heck? Like, he rolled over and he's like, oh my gosh, like she's really crying. And I'm like, just like laying there crying. He's like, what's wrong? And I'm like not ready to talk. I'm just like sobbing crying. And then I was like, I just feel so overwhelmed and like just tired and just drained. And so I think it's because I was like, bro, like I know I'm 39 weeks and you can go up to 41 weeks and be pregnant and get induced and all that stuff, right? And everyone's like, oh, the baby's gonna come when it wants to, blah blah blah. But I feel like a lot of people don't realize, like, okay, yes, we know that, like the baby's gonna come when he wants, you know, whatever. And of course, like if he's not ready, he's not ready. But the mom's bodies are also going through a lot. They're drained, they're tired, they're getting swollen, you're peeing literally like every 5 seconds, it feels like. And so I feel like people definitely need to take that into consideration towards the end of the pregnancy. And I think what also was like kind of overwhelming for me is like everyone was like, is the baby here? Is the baby here? Like, are you feeling any contractions? And I, like, you know, not only just having like family and friends asking me, I also had, you know, like everyone online and like, you know, all of our followers and supporters, you know, like, is the baby here? Is the baby here? And not that I didn't love that, and I loved that people were checking up on me, but I felt like that also too played a part of me feeling like overwhelmed, you know. Not because I was like, oh my gosh, I need to hurry up and have this baby because everyone wants him here. It wasn't really like that. It was more of just like, I'm trying everything I can to have this baby, and I feel like nothing's working. I'm super uncomfortable. Like he was in my ribs like 90% of the time towards the end of my pregnancy, and I was just so tired. And on top of that, I was like nesting, and I just felt like my house couldn't get clean enough for me. And so I think that's why I felt so overwhelmed. So that was that morning. I had my mental breakdown and I was just like, and then I kind of took a nap and just like, you know, rested that day. And then that evening we went for like, I don't want to say a hike because it wasn't really a hike, but there's these mountains here in Arizona. It's like off Verrado Way, and they're like the Verrado steps, and basically it's like a mountain and it has like steps, so it's like stairs. Well, we walked that, we went all the way up, and surprisingly I made it to the top. Mind you, I have not worked out. I was not super active at all. And so for me to make it to the top, being 155 pounds, just carrying nothing but baby, I was like, oh my gosh, like I really did it. And I'm gonna pop up a video so you guys can see. Hopefully I can pop up a video. I'm gonna try to pop up a video. I was like, oh my gosh, I made it to the top. It was honestly so beautiful up there. It was like relieving because I was like, yes, like I did this, period. And I'm big, feeling like a freaking hippo. That was that. And then we came back down, and it was like we went around like 6:15ish, so it was like pretty late in the evening. We get home and I'm just like, you know, whatever. Jordan makes dinner, so we ate dinner, and then we got the girls ready for bed. They're in bed already. I cleaned up the kitchen after dinner, and then I go take a shower. I'm in the shower cleaning up, blah blah blah. I get out the shower, and it's so crazy because I literally took my very last belly bump photo, and I honestly didn't even like, I'm not thinking anything of anything, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like I literally took my last bump pic too. And so we're laying in bed. Usually like me and Jordan, we'd end our night, like sometimes he would watch his show, and then like I'll just be on TikTok. And so I was on TikTok for a little bit, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go pee, and then I'm gonna go to sleep because I was tired. So I went pee, and then I came back and I plugged in my phone. I'm getting ready for bed. I'm literally just like in my undies and a comfy t-shirt. I went to the bathroom. Wait, no, did I say that already? I already said I went to the bathroom. Yeah, I went pee, and then I come back, put my phone on the charger, and then my underwear felt wet out of nowhere, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I was like, okay, maybe I just needed to pee more, and I just tinkled my underwear. And then I went back to the bathroom. I grabbed underwear. I went back to the bathroom, and I checked my underwear, and I was like, what the heck? Like, there's no, like, I don't know. Like, something was telling me, like, I don't think this was pee, because it didn't, the way it came out, it didn't feel like it was pee, you know? So I smelled my underwear, and I was like, there's no smell, no nothing. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm tripping. And then I was like, babe, like, I feel like I'm like leaking. Like, it was weird. And then I stood up from the toilet and I started leaking again, and I'm like, what is going on? But it was like drips, like literally, it wasn't a lot of water. That's why I wasn't too sure that it was like my water that broke. And so I was like, what the heck? And then I went and put on another pair of underwear, and I don't know if I like walked back to the bed or if I was just like standing in the bathroom, because at this point I'm already like leaking. And I was like, babe, like I'm leaking. And then I had put on another pair of underwear, and he's like, just walk around and like, we'll see if you leak again. And I didn't start leaking, and I sat on my ball. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit on my ball. I bounced on it for a couple minutes, and then I got up, and as soon as I stood up, it like started pouring again. And I'm like, okay, like I think this is my water. I take my underwear off, and I'm like, babe, I'm leaking. And I just stood in the bathroom. I'm literally just standing in the bathroom with just my shirt on, and I'm like, okay, like I'm just gonna stand here, wait for it to leak. And then it started leaking again. So he calls our family like doctor. She's like, I'm pretty sure her water broke. You guys should definitely go to the hospital. Literally, we're like trying not to get our hopes up because we weren't sure, but I was like, we were kind of sure. We needed confirmation, because we're like, we had already got our hopes up a week before that, because I had got my membrane swept and I started having contractions, but nothing happened. I didn't dilate. There was no baby. So we're like, okay, no, we need confirmation. Like something needs to tell us, like we need more. Like, we don't believe we're having a baby. We don't believe my water broke. And so we call Carolee, Jordan's mom, and we're like, hey, like we think Raylene's water broke. Like, can you come watch the girls? Because the girls were sleeping for school. And this was our plan. Like, we already had our birth plan planned out. Everyone knew, like, once it was go time, like we all had a job and a role to play. And so she's like, oh my gosh. So she rushed over to the house. The girls are sleeping. And then literally just from her getting to the house, and me getting dressed to go to the hospital, at this point I'm like pouring every time I walk, and I'm like, bro, how long does this go on? Like, there's so much coming out, and I didn't even think that was possible. So I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was honestly pretty cool, and it was such a great experience because I did not expect that. I've never had my water break on its own. And so I literally had to ride to the hospital with a towel in between my legs because I was like just, I want to say draining, but it probably sounds weird to say that, but I was just, it was coming out, it was happening, and this was it. And so we got to the hospital. I was already pre-registered, so they had all my information. All I had to do was just type in my social and the little keypad. We're literally in the labor and delivery area of the hospital. We got front row parking. It's just like everything was happening so great. And we get there, and they had to do a little swap to make sure that it was amniotic fluid and make sure that it was my water that broke. Sure enough, it came back, and they're like, you're having a baby today, so just plan on staying here because your water did break. And I was like, oh, I knew. At this point, I already knew. Like, I knew my water broke because even walking back with the nurse, I had to stop walking because it was coming out so much. I was like, bro, like, okay, I'm gonna literally wet the whole floor. I did end up wetting the floor, but at this point, the towel is soaked. And so she gives me my hospital gown to change into. And because everything happened, and I ended up also having to change one more time before we left the house, and Jordan helped me, he put our hospital bag down and totally forgot to pick it back up and take it with us to the hospital. So we called my sister, and she brought the hospital bag to the hospital for us. And at this point, we're excited. I'm like, okay, it's happening. It's 11 o'clock. We got to the hospital about like 10:30, and then we, of course, were waiting in the waiting room. I was having no contractions at all. And then it's 11 o'clock. We're finally in like the, we're still in like the room and everything where they did the swab because they didn't move us to labor and delivery, like the room that you're going to deliver the baby in. So we're just laying there, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is really about to happen. Jordan's still shook. I'm still shook because I'm like, bro, what? Like, my water literally broke. And we ended up getting moved to labor and delivery. I had to get put on Pitocin because I was not contracting. And so they gave me the Pitocin around 12. And then like 30 to 40 minutes after that, they gave me the epidural because I knew like I wanted to do the epidural because I was like, I don't want to feel the pain. I don't want to feel the contractions. And I didn't know what to expect from Pitocin. Like, I've never had to do that. I've never been on Pitocin. So I was like, damn, like, what if I go 0 to 100 like really quick and I don't know, and like I know I'm not gonna be able to tolerate the pain because I've had contractions before, because I've obviously had 2 pregnancies before this one. And so I was like, give me the epidural. And then finally it's 1 in the morning, I start contracting, and then they put me on, like, they laid me on my right side and just put the peanut ball in between my legs so I could dilate, and it's supposed to help or whatever. I was able to take a little nap, and so I was like kind of in and out of sleep. I obviously couldn't take like a full-on nap because I could still kind of feel pressure, and because I was laying on my right side, the epidural wasn't working on the left side of my body, so like I felt the contractions on my left side, and they started to get closer and it started to get more painful. So I called the nurse in and I was like, I'm hurting, like, can we flip and get me another dose of epidural? They flipped me, give me another dose of epidural, bumped up the Pitocin, and sure enough, like 20-30 minutes later, I'm like, I felt pressure in my behind area. I don't know if I could say the word because like I don't know if I'm allowed to on YouTube, but yeah, in my behind I felt like pressure, and I was like, babe, go get the nurse, like I feel something down there and it feels weird, I feel pressure. So he goes and gets the nurse, and I'm laying there on my left side, and I'm like, bro, like I could feel these contractions a little bit, the second dose hasn't kicked in, like what's not clicking, Steven? I did not feel the epidural. And then the nurse comes in and she's like, I can feel the head, like we need to start pushing. So then I was like, oh my gosh. And for some reason, I don't know if it's because I was like nervous or the adrenaline or maybe the extra dose of epidural, but I started shaking and like shivering. I was like, I got the epidural shakes or whatever, that's what they call it. I'm like, what the heck? And Jordan's like, babe, are you okay? And he's like, why is she shaking like this? Is this normal? I'm like, yes, it's normal. Yeah. Like, it's the adrenaline and everything. Prepping, getting ready to start pushing. And the doctors are so calm. Like, there's like 3 nurses in there, the doctor, and then a NICU doctor in there. And everyone's so calm. He's moving slow. And he had came and seen me before we even got moved into labor and delivery. He's like, oh, if this is your 3rd kid, it's going to happen super quick. Like, you're going to definitely have the baby tonight. He had went upstairs, I guess, and took a nap. And he's like, I told you, I knew it was going to happen. And so we're like, what the heck? He's getting ready, putting his gloves on, all his stuff on. Everyone's so chill. I'm like, okay, if you felt the head, and it's time for me to start pushing, like, why am I not pushing yet? Like, I'm like, let's go. It was freaking me out, honestly, about how calm they were. But it also helped me, and like the doctors were amazing, and I felt so calm and just so relaxed. And it was time for me to start pushing. I literally pushed for like 8 minutes. He did get stuck. It kind of freaked me out, and I think it's because I got the 2nd dose of epidural and it was still so like fresh. I feel like I wasn't pushing hard enough, but I think I was pushing hard enough because I literally got lightheaded from pushing so damn hard. But he got stuck, his shoulder got stuck, and luckily he was able to like slip out. Because if not, they would have had to like break his collarbone and like pull him out. But honestly, it was a blessing they didn't have to do that, because that would have made me so sad. But his face was super swollen and bruised, and so I think it's just because my body's tiny. I was not ready to push out an 8, almost 9-pound baby. And the doctors were so shook. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you pushed him out, like this big baby out of, you know, you're so tiny. And I did it in like 7 to 8 minutes. So they're like, you did great. And it was so good, like having Jordan there by my side too. Like, it was a great feeling because I've never got to experience labor like this. And, you know, just even my water breaking, it was so cool, especially because this is going to be our last pregnancy. Because I don't want to like get pregnant again, and like we just don't want another baby. And that's something that we both agreed on. But it was definitely a great experience, especially having Jordan by my side, like 100%, and just being ready and like knowing what to do when he knew like what I wanted. And so I feel like that plays a big role when you are giving birth, because you're focusing on giving birth to a baby, you're focusing on pushing a baby, like you're worried about your body too, like your breathing and all this, you know, stuff. So it was great having a partner that was like just full on hands-on and like just there for you to support you with whatever, you know. It was amazing. And then yeah, I was having like blood clots, so they did have to give me medicine because they didn't want me to hemorrhage. They're like, it's weird, you know, that you're bleeding this much. And so yeah, I had to get medicine for that. But that was my labor and delivery. And then of course, you know, you stay at the hospital for like 24 hours. And yeah, honestly, I love giving birth. I've always said it. I think it's just a great feeling. This was honestly the easiest birth ever, because with the girls, with Ileana, I contracted for like 4 days, took forever to dilate, and then I finally had her. She came 4 days before her due date. And then with Mila, I didn't even know I was dilated or anything. I was 4 centimeters the day of my weekly checkup. Literally had her that night. They're like, okay, like you're gonna have your baby. She was 37 weeks. And so she came early. And then with Apollo, he came 6 days early. So it was pretty cool, like experiencing each pregnancy differently. But this one probably was the easiest and most comfortable because I didn't really have to feel any pain. And although I felt some of the contractions on my left side, they still weren't super bad to where like your whole stomach was tightening and like, you know, how regular contractions are. It was nothing like that. So I can honestly say this was the easiest and my most biggest pregnancy, because I was 125 before having Apollo, and towards the end of my pregnancy before labor I was 155. I was huge. So yeah guys, that was my labor and delivery experience. I hope you guys liked this video. If you are new to my channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you're notified every single time I post a video. And yeah, love you guys. Bye.